Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh shit.
Mother. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Angel and Tony Show. We're going to call this Season 2 because why not? This episode is going to be about something that is really hot in the news right now, as you guys probably know, and it's racism. And I spent a lot of time thinking about this with the whole Black Lives Matter movement going on, and where did my voice fit into it? Because I feel like there's so much information out on the internet right now being delivered in so many different ways that it's kind of hard for me to think of what I can say that hasn't already been said a million times. So I came to the conclusion that what I could bring to the table is my own story because it is pretty unique. That history that I have has given me a different perspective on what's going on, and it's given me a different environment to deal with and a different set of people that I deal with. And there's a different set of people who are listening to me that I think many other Black people out here do not have listening to them. So I think using this platform is my way of touching who I can. So I've talked about this before on the show, and I want to start by just giving a really brief run through of how I grew up. Initially, I was in a predominantly Black neighborhood on the south side of Chicago and South Shore. I went to a school that was all Black. There was no white kids in it. We had two teachers, a gym teacher and then a regular teacher who were white. Everybody else there was Black. It was weird for me being a light-skinned kid there because I was always like picked on for that. I was always called white, but there was actually no white kids there. When I was in 4th grade, we moved to the suburbs, and that was the first time that I was around other races of kids. I went to a school that had everybody in it. From that point on, I never had a Black teacher again until I was in 8th grade. I had one, and then I never had a Black teacher again until I was in college. I was in a suburb where I was definitely the minority. The middle school I went to had like 4 Black people in it, and I was one of them. The high school that I went to had more, but it was still like a very stark minority, especially in my particular class. What I came to realize in this moment right now is like I learned a lot more about Black history in the past few weeks than I did in any of my public education or elementary school or high school education. And I started asking myself, why is that? And I slowly started to realize that it was set up that way on purpose. I think a lot of other people started to realize that too. Another thing that I wanted to say was that I think growing up in these two different environments, regardless, I always kind of felt misunderstood. But more so when I was in these kind of like white environments. I was often dismissed as like the angry Black man for stuff. And sometimes it boiled down to just the way that I talked. Sometimes it came down to just a frustration of not feeling like understood. It came down to a frustration of constantly having to operate in a world I just didn't fit in. And I got to a point where I started calling myself token because I wanted to just own it. I knew that I was the outsider, and I knew that everybody else knew that, so I just owned it. And with the current climate of things, it kind of made me realize how much I just suppressed myself and like put myself away to make everybody else comfortable. And how much I did to adapt to everyone else's expectations. And nobody really cared to adapt to mine, really. Like, people would ask me as some sort of like arbiter of Blackness questions about words or what stuff meant. Why do you guys do this? Can I touch your hair? Like that kind of stuff. And I never got mad about it. And I always saw it as like genuine curiosity. But it was always done from kind of like a safe distance. The last thing as far as my background that I want to say is it was hard for me to relate to other black kids in my high school because I felt like a lot of them were trying to conform to this image of like what it meant to be black. And a lot of them were trying to like go out of their way to be hood or like fake gangbangers and stuff like that. And I knew what real gangbangers did. I kind of had an idea of why they did it because I grew up in that environment like when I was little. And so I didn't understand why somebody would move to the suburbs and try to like do that in a place where like you were safe. So I couldn't relate to that. And so I got ostracized by them because they thought that I thought I was better than them. And it wasn't that I thought I was better than them. I just didn't want to try to be something that I wasn't. It wasn't always like easier having like all white friends either. But it was what I knew because my middle school, that was who was there and that was who my friends were. So with that said, I guess we can get into a conversation. To me, where we are now started in 2016 for obvious reasons. And I've been saying this. My issue is not with a Republican or a Democrat. My issue is with...
It's a human issue.
A person. My issue is with somebody using like divisive tactics and pitting people against each other for their own personal gain. And like, it's a lot of manipulation. And it's a lot of like them versus us kind of thing and like demonizing the other. Which in a country like this where there's so many different types of people, I don't understand how you can win like that. Like how the country can win like that. I was definitely on the team of people who couldn't believe that actually was going to happen. Like I was like, there's no way this guy's going to be the president. There's no way. And I think now what we're seeing is that there's always been this undertone of racism in this country. This country was built on a lot of like evil, dark stuff. It's kind of showing its face right now. And I think there's a lot of people out here realizing it for the first time. And it's shocking. Even me, like, there's stuff that I'm realizing for the first time that's like mind-blowing. I liked what you said earlier about you like to focus on solutions. What do you think the solution is?
We don't have enough time in this episode for that. And I don't think that I even know it. All I know is that we're not going to get anywhere as people, as a country, if we cannot communicate with one another without yelling at each other and stonewalling each other. And I know it's hard because, like, emotions are high. And, like, this stuff is painful, right? Like, as a black man, I'm sure you are going through that, right? Like, you feel this pain. So, like, if you're going to go and you're going to approach people and try to have a discussion, you bring that with you. And for some reason, what I've noticed is that if you try to speak to somebody from an opposing view, their automatic response is they get defensive. And it's almost like, well, I'm not talking about you. Why are you carrying that burden? It's almost like if I'm talking to you, I'm trying to have an engaging conversation with you to bring up a point and let you know how I feel. Why does that automatically make you why are you the victim all of a sudden? You know what I mean? Like, what is this, like, the psychology behind that?
But to me, the psychology behind that is that, like, you know you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
and like with this particular thing, with the racism thing, it's not a political thing. So if I'm telling you, if you want to tell me all lives matter, and I explain to you that you're taking this phrase completely out of context, and you can hear so many explanations of what this phrase means, and you want to still stand there and argue the point with me. There's no argument to be had. And then if you turn around and make yourself the victim somehow, like what? And then you have people that will say, you're just against me because I'm a Republican and you're a liberal or whatever. And I'm like, at no point did I bring politics into this. I'm asking you to treat me like a human being. I'm asking you to treat people that look like me like human beings. I'm asking you to understand the fact that this whole system has been set up against us. And I'm showing you all the different ways through all these different mediums, articles, books, movies, YouTube clips, all these people explaining this.
Historical
Facts. And you're so busy defending the fact that, like, you have a different opinion. So are you saying your opinion is that you disagree with me, that I should be treated equally as a person? Because that's what I'm talking about here. But
they think that it is taking away from their life, and that's why I'm saying that. So my thing is this: like, I've had a lot of conversations, like a lot of really difficult conversations with people with opposing opinions, off the record, off camera, off Facebook. You know, what I've seen, especially because a lot of the people that I'm speaking with are, you know, what, family members, other minority groups, and it's almost like there's a competition of oppression. And what I don't get about that is I've noticed there are people in my Filipino American community that are like, well, why is it just Black lives? Huh? What does that even mean? What do you mean? Like, and then they'll bring up like, well, I just wish like the slogan was different. And I'm like, yeah, well, I wish there weren't Black people being hung right now. Like, what? And that's what I mean is I don't understand.
It's like you're making it about yourself.
But it's not a competition.
Right.
Who wants to win in the game of oppression?
I do not.
Nobody should.
Right.
But, like, going back to a solution, the only way that we'll be able to get anywhere is if we can communicate and have those difficult conversations with people and be willing to unlearn things that have been built into our DNA. Because all of this is rooted so deeply that it's not easily untangled. You know, this isn't something that people are just going to flip the switch and be like, you know what? I'm not racist anymore.
And I've been saying this too, like all this is 400 years old. So I don't even expect to see this like turn around, even with what's happening right now, like the level of the protests, like the amount of people out here backing us up, which I think is beautiful, but I still find it very hard to believe that I'm going to see this completely disappear in my lifetime, because there's still somehow people opposing it.
Yeah.
There's still people out here mad that like slave owner statues are getting taken down, you know? And I think there's going to be a dramatic shift in the next, you know, coming years, but I don't think it's going to go away. Like, it's going to take generations of people doing it and like undoing, like you said, you know, 400 years of conditioning and brainwashing. And in the process of you trying to do that, like, your government is still going against everything that you're trying to do.
We've talked about this numerous times off camera. A lot of people fail to see what's just in front of them. They can never zoom out and see the big picture of a lot of things. A lot of people will only base their opinion on a certain group based off of only the people that they're surrounded by. And I get that, and I understand that. I understand that sort of human conditioning that happens when, if you're brought up around something, that's going to be your opinion.
Implicit bias. We did a whole episode on that.
Show did. But what people fail to realize is that that group does not represent the entire group.
Race of people.
You cannot base it off of that. And if you think for just 1 second that it's this like white against black, white supremacy against black people, and get over it, slavery's over type thing, you have so much more to unpack. I don't even know where to start. This thing is in everything, in literally everything. Our school system, our real estate, our job market, our food. Literally everything is built on this system. And everything has been against black people. These are facts. And this isn't like, I'm not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. I mean, just do your research. Learn about this stuff. Learn about why there's certain things you never learned in school. Like, have you heard about Black Wall Street? The answer is no. The answer is no. I bet a lot of you guys didn't even know what Juneteenth was until like this year. I can bet money on that, actually.
Mm-hmm. There's been so many things that I myself am learning about right now that I should have learned about in high school, but I didn't. And right now, there's also, because we have so much information at our fingertips at all time, it's hard for me to feel bad for you or want to like have a dialogue with you when I know you're purposely, willfully not trying to learn and you're talking. And so it's like, if you want to not know shit, don't say shit. Like, just be over there and be dumb. But don't like come running out the woodwork saying a whole bunch of dumb shit when you have no idea what you're talking about and you know that you don't. That's like the irritation for me and why I have very low patience for the dumb shit. And I'm not saying all of it is dumb shit. Like, there are some things that you probably just don't know. And I'm fine with explaining that to you. But there's some things that, like, all lives matter. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, you come at me with that, like, I'm going to chop you down instantly. But I also think it's very interesting what you brought up about the, like, oppression Olympics.
Yeah.
Because at no point do I think other people don't have issues. And there's a difference between discrimination and racism.
Yeah.
Everybody gets discriminated for some shit. Racism is where the whole system is set up to hold you back. It's when a cop feels comfortable killing you slowly on camera in broad daylight.
Like, the police were set up to protect white wealth. Ask me who they were supposed to protect the white wealth from.
Who were they supposed to protect that white wealth from?
I got you.
No!
You guys, like, this is our history. And we have to accept it, acknowledge it, and now pull back the layers and unlearn it. Like, this is the only way we're going to grow. Now, going back to the oppression Olympics. I like that term that you coined, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't make that up. I got it from somewhere. I don't remember though.
I like that though. So I've seen a lot of people on my timeline, because I am friends with a diverse group of people with different opinions. So a lot of people, you know, on their social media, they might just be sounding off to one another. I don't. I definitely have, I have some people that are, you know, on the Trump side, and they have their own opinions, and that's fine. And I was able to respect it to an extent until now. And I'm going to tell you why. Both Tony and I are business owners, right? We have a business together. We have our own separate businesses. Cool. We both have benefited from the economic policies that have been going on. Great. That's amazing. But you know what we will never choose? What will we never choose, Tony?
I will never choose money over my own humanity.
Never. We will never choose money over people. Literally never. It's never going to happen. And so when I see somebody who may have benefited me financially hurt me, him, and just people that we love, we can't stand for that. We don't care how much money he saves us at all.
And he goes out of his way to do it. It's not like it's just a side effect of something else. Like, you go out of your way to damage LGBT people.
Section 1557, done on the anniversary of Pulse, on Pride Month, the Tulsa rally, done on the weekend of Juneteenth. I mean,
like, you do this on purpose.
Design.
So here's my thing. Like, that is what I can't get behind. Like, you are going out of your way to be my enemy. And y'all act like, come on, bro. Like, you see that. And so if you're going to side with somebody who's going out of their way to be my enemy, what does that make you? Is that my fault? That's not my fault.
What's been brought up in certain discussions and what I've seen people say is, I don't have white privilege. I've never experienced white privilege in my entire life. No one's ever treated me differently because I'm white. And I've worked so hard for everything that I have. I worked so hard. Nothing was handed to me. I've been working since I was 12 years old.
Okay. There's no doubt in my mind that there's white people out here that have worked very hard for what they've gotten. However, those same people aren't faced with the same obstacles that somebody black trying to do the same thing would be faced with. And it goes all the way back to the areas that they might live in. So even if you live in the same area, say me and you live in the same area, we went to the same school, we could even have lived in the same neighborhood, you still are not going to face the implicit bias that the person you're going to interview with when you go to get a job is going to have when they see you. So every time I walked into an interview, I was super self-conscious of how I stood, how much eye contact that I made, how I talked. I have to change the entire way that I talk, pitch my voice up or down, and be extra proper when I say things. And still at the end of the day, I know that this person is looking at me differently than he's looking at somebody white who might remind him of his son or nephew or daughter or whatever. I know that he is thinking, I need this job more because I might be from some impoverished thing, or I might have to take care of my mom. Whether, even if his bias that he's thinking about me is positive and not negative, it's still something he's assuming about me based on what I look like. And even if he's not thinking any of that, I'm conditioned to assume that he's thinking that. Same goes for if you're a black woman and you go to get a job, you're taught that you need to wear your hair a certain way. It was literally had to be like, there was like a bill or something passed that you couldn't tell people how to wear their hair. And it came from people having a problem with black women's hair. So they're damaging their hair permanent, burning it, straightening it, doing all this stuff to look more white so that they're not judged as much when they go to get a job. These are things that we're talking about when we're talking about white privilege. It's not to say that everything gets handed to you just because you're white. It's things that you don't even know you don't have to deal with, that you don't have to deal with. So I think rather than get defensive about it, because it isn't your fault. Nobody's mad at you because you don't have to deal with these things.
And I think that's what happens. That's what they are perceiving. They're saying, why do you keep saying white privilege? I am not privileged. I came from nothing and I made something of myself.
Listen, I'll give you another example. My aunt is in her 50s, a 50-year-old woman who's never been to jail, never been arrested, has kids, a house, lives in the suburbs, is still terrified of being pulled over by the police. For what? For what? And I can't think of any white woman with that same lifestyle who is terrified of being pulled over by the police. And that's not even talking about me, a young black male, being pulled over by the police and what I feel. And I've also never been arrested before. I have no criminal record. Barely got traffic tickets. But my heart races when I get pulled over by the cops. I don't want to reach for my wallet, reach for my ID. I was taught when I was a kid before I started driving to put my hands on the dashboard and all this other stuff. And I've been in the car where I was driving and the only sober person in the car. And I had a Mexican girlfriend, my best friend who's from Argentina in the backseat, and a white guy who I didn't even know who was with my friends. A cop pulled us over, and this dude who's wasted is just talking hellish to this cop. And who had to come out of the car and do the field sobriety test? Me, the person who hadn't drank a single drink. I met them there, and he did not believe me. He said, "How much did you drink tonight?" I was like, "I didn't drink anything." He was like, "Really? Will you want to get out the car and take a field sobriety test?" And I said, "Sure." And he asked me if I was willing to blow, all that. And I would never in my life talk the shit that this drunk asshole was doing. He don't even know me because he has no idea. That is white privilege. So, these are the things that we're talking about when we say that. It has nothing to do with your work ethic being less or anything being given to you outright for free because you're white.
I know I've been talking a lot about education, but like honestly, look at the schools. Just look at the school systems. Look at the school systems from where we're from. Naperville is, I think, like 60% white, and they're like a top tier school. They're ranked in the top tier. I think they were like 10 out of 10. They're doing great. Now, the inner city schools, which are predominantly blacks, they don't have that same rankings at all. I mean, it's just in your education system where these schools, it's already set up for failure a lot of the times.
They don't even having books sometimes, like
everything. And what I've noticed, and this is something that I spoke to with my cousins actually, what I notice is you'll see the more minority-based schools get funded, but you'll see them get funded for athletics, never education.
Some more slave ownership. This next thing that I wanted to talk about is solely based on like my own personal experience. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. But because of where I went to high school, like I naturally know a lot of white people or other non-black people. And I've been a little bit vocal about all this stuff. Like I put out a couple other videos and I think it made people feel comfortable with talking to me about it, but I also feel like it made people think that I needed some sort of reassurance from them too. And I'm not really mad at that, but I just want to like clear the air on that because the stuff that I made, the stuff that I said wasn't for me. It was for the cause, right? So for somebody to reach out to me and be like, "I'm checking in on you, are you okay?" Like in the beginning, like cool, I did kind of appreciate that and I appreciated people like acknowledging it. But then I realized it started to feel like they were checking in on me because they wanted me to make sure that they were okay, like that they weren't the bad guy. And I'm sure there's other black people who have white friends that, or white acquaintances, because I had people that I don't even talk to like that start sending me poems about George Floyd and whatever. And I'm like, why are you sending this to me? What are you telling me? Like, you think I don't know this stuff? You finding this stuff and sending it to me does what exactly? And I literally told them that. And I was like, if you want to do something, if you want to feel like you're doing something, don't send it to me. Send it to people that look like you. Send it to your peers. Just as much as it's weird for you right now and you don't know what to say, but you want to say something because you feel like shit, justifiably so. I don't know what to say either. Like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, I have nothing to give you that's going to make it feel better because it sucks ass. Like, it's shitty. It's shitty for you and it's shitty for me too. It's been shitty for me. But I can't deal with what I'm dealing with, like, as the black person in this scenario and also, like, help you feel better.
As someone who is not black, I definitely recognize my own privileges because I am not black. But my advice to other people who are coming at you like this is unpack your guilt on your own. And what I mean by that is don't try to put your guilt and that burden on your black friends to try to validate you for what you're doing. Like it's not the time, it's not the place, and it really just, there's a little bit of tone deafness to it, a little bit, because he's not responsible to pat you on the back because you put up a black square. Like, he's not there to do that for you. And you shouldn't feel like that is what's going to make you feel better. This is a very uncomfortable topic. It's a very uncomfortable thing to talk about. But for him, this has been his life. He's lived this. So if you think that you feel uncomfortable for the 2-3 weeks that you've been going through this, imagine what somebody like him feels. And I don't want to speak for you. This is all, I'm just, you can jump in.
This is your own realizations, though.
This is just what I've realized is if you really want to be an ally, for me, I will do whatever I can to use my privilege to help create change. I want to see this world become a better place. I truly do. And I'll do the work. I'll unlearn the things that I learned. You know, there are definitely times where I myself have been racist. 100%. There are things that I've had to, like, shed from my own upbringing of certain things, certain mentalities, certain biases that I've had to unpack. Tony is my best friend. I don't call Tony and be like, Tony, today I did this petition and I donated it to this organization and I made like 500 phone calls.
And that's the thing. Like, the most important thing to realize is that this is not about any particular individual. So like, if you're realizing I had a friend that watched 13th for the first time because I told people everybody in America should watch that movie. And I had a couple of people that watched it and told me that they watched it and were flabbergasted by what they saw. That I appreciate. Like, letting me know that you are making an effort. Cool. That's what I want people to do. It's not about like asking me, what have you done to me? Like, it's not about me, the individual. It's not about any one of your black friends or your black co-worker that you want to like go out of your way to like buy a cupcake or whatever you do. Nobody wants that. Like, none of us are looking for that. It's about the overall situation, and the way that you can help is by all of that, like educating yourself and making a move. But coming to me with, you know, the tears, that's not gonna do anything for anybody.
And I also want to like just add on to Tony's point. There are so many organizations that are leading this fight, and they have been for many years. And we'll leave some of the links like in the description box and stuff for this episode. But my advice is get behind those organizations. Join those organizations. I get text messages and emails all the time of just, you know, updates on certain legislations or different petitions that we need to sign or an election that's coming up or just different ways that you can get involved. That is how you can help. That is how you can unpack your own guilt. That is how you can help create change, is by doing that, doing actionable items like that. And I will add on as well that the most important part of allyship is doing it when nobody is looking and doing it without having to post about it or anything like that. And what I mean is we all are a part of communities, whether it's our jobs, whether it's our family, whether it's just our friend circle. If you see certain things, little microaggressions here and there, call it out. Are you at a job that doesn't have a single black employee? Ask them why. Are you like hearing some of your friends drop the N-word and not care? Like, don't let that stuff slide. All these little things is what people need to do in order to help create more change. And I just feel like if we just take the time to really just learn, educate, and communicate, we really can like get through this together. And it's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to be really uncomfortable, but I do believe that we can.
And also be relentless about it. Like, it's gonna take a long time. It's gonna be a lot of just like beating a lot of dead horses, because that's a lot of what our government's made out of. But some of this stuff takes 10 years, and it's like baby steps. And that's why I think a lot of this isn't gonna happen in our lifetime, like to be completely over. But like, as long as we keep chipping away at it, like that's what matters. Like, staying relentless and not like doing it just because it's like a fad right now, like constantly trying to erode at this, because they spent 400 years building it.
Have you had any difficult discussions with your white friends already?
I've had a couple. Like, a friend of mine texted me happy Juneteenth. And I was like, don't do that. And his point of view was just like, I think it is an important holiday, and I think it should be something that like gets made into a holiday, just like 4th of July or anything like that. And so this is the only way I know how to acknowledge it is by doing that. And I was like, I get where you're coming from, and I know you have good intentions, but I'm like, it comes off real like patronizing and like tone deaf for you in this moment right now, as somebody who's not black, to text the black guy that you know happy Juneteenth. Like, and I'm like, and it's not even necessarily a happy holiday. Like, it's not a holiday to be like happy not being a slave. Like, that's weird. And I was like, it's just a weird thing to do. And I was like, I don't want you doing that to your other black friends. Right? Like, you know, I'm sure I was the first one that you did, but I'm like, I don't want you walking around doing that. And so we had a good conversation, and he was like, he understood where I was coming from. There's other people that I haven't really talked to, because I don't really know what to say to them right now. And I'm kind of like annoyed by their inaction, or they're like not really saying much about it. But that also could be my fault, because I'm the only one that they could really talk to about it, and I'm not doing it because I'm annoyed by their not doing anything. So it's another one of those things that puts me in this like weird spot. And I'm not really good at the hard conversation thing all the time, because I've a low tolerance for bullshit.
I know that you had a lot of white friends. So, like, what was the, I don't want to say expectation, but what did you want them to do? Like, what would have made you feel?
I think, well, I'll say this. Like, the people that did do things, because I didn't really know what I wanted until I saw people doing things. And I was like, yeah, do that. That's tight. And I think most of it just boiled down to people sharing information to their peers. Because you said this before in like, I think in the homophobia episode, like, I can only talk to the people that listen to me. But like, you as a straight person who knows other straight people that might not deal with anybody gay, like, they're not going to hear me. So like, you have to talk for me. And it's the same thing. Like, a lot of these people that I know, they know way more white people than I do, or they have white family members that be saying all type of racist shit all the time. Like, tell them, you know what I'm saying? Like, say something, like post some shit that the people that are your peers can see. Educate yourself. And I don't know if they are doing that or they're not, because I don't see it. And so I might be unfairly annoyed by them. I don't know. But I think what I did enjoy was when people told me, like, you know, I read this, or I saw this, or if I saw that they're like reposting something that, you know, I said or somebody else said, and they really understand it. Or if they tell me like they know about is it Jane Elliott. Like, when somebody's like, yeah, you know, I know about Jane Elliott, I love her. And it's like, that's dope. Or if they, like, I had another friend of mine who is actually Mexican, I believe. And she schooled me on so many things about just, like, black activists from, like, the Black Panther era. And, like, was quoting all these, like, Angela Davis things and knows a lot about stuff. Because she's from the Bay, so she's like from the home of that stuff. Like, and that was cool to me. And she kind of was totally willing to admit, you know, where her people do bogus stuff too. And that's all I want, man. It's just like, that's all people are looking for, is to be acknowledged, and then to acknowledge it. Because the fact that people are having to say, like, we matter is because we've been treated like we don't for hundreds of years, to the point we start to believe it. Like, you are around and you listen to people say stuff about you or about your people, and you're just like, whatever, or you just get over it. Like, I've had my own friends, white people. I had a white friend of mine who probably doesn't even remember this. We were arguing about something, and he was losing the argument, and he just out of nowhere goes, well, you're a nigger. And he kind of like chuckled about it, like, I'm just with you. But I'm like, everything inside of me was like, I should knock your teeth down your throat. But you're my friend, and I love you, and you're just being an idiot. And I let that slide. And that was in high school. I'm 34, and I remember that. To me, that's what I want, is like for you to acknowledge that you've been doing shit like that. And change your ways. Like, educate yourself, learn like why you can't be doing shit like that. That's all. Like, I don't want you to do anything for me in particular. Like, I don't need the people who've been like, cash at me $50 for reparations. Like, I don't need all that. I just want you to like educate yourself and like change somebody else's mind. Even if it's one person, change somebody else's mind, open somebody else's eyes. That's all I want, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. Because you can only reach who you can reach. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the last point that I wanted to make was that overall, I'm really, really proud to see what is happening in this country. I'm really proud to see the change that's happening. It's really good to not feel by yourself. It's really cool to see like whole ass marches of only white people marching down certain streets with these signs. That's epic. And when I saw that, like, there was protests in every state in like 18 other countries, like, wow, you know? And so I guess I just hope to see the momentum of that keep going. And I think what this country needs to remember is that we're all on the same team. So if all of us aren't winning, like, if all of us aren't being allowed to play, how do we win? How are we really winning? And it's crazy to me that like all these things go to hurt a whole race of people, and then at the same time you want to be upset about your economy being bad. And it's like, why are you cutting the feet off of an entire group of people that could be contributing to your economy? I don't get that. So at the end of the day, if we want to see this country win, if we want to see this country succeed, like, we all have to work together. Like, we're all on the same team. Like, we're all American. And so I think right now, seeing so many different people come together for a cause has been something I wish my grandparents could see. And I'm ecstatic that I'm getting to see. And we are a part of history right now. Like, this is history right now. And I just want to tell people to like make sure you're part of this, make sure you're on the right side of this, and like, let's make history.
Black Lives Matter.